Am I going to spoil this book? Probably. Lots of people like it, but in this video, this is all my opinion and me being a curmudgeon about some YA books I've been reading. Well, just the one YA book, because I didn't finish another one yet. Hello! It's me, Cereal Eater. Back with another book review. And I've been ruminating on not spoiling books so people can go out and read the books themselves. But honestly, I'm probably just going to spoil this book a little bit. I'll make sure to make a note of the times and things like that and make it as brief as possible because I have a couple comments on why some spoilery type things make me not like the book more. In fact, like I said, I want you to go and read the book. But also, I'm not sure if you should read this book. It's kind of a waste of time. Ha ha ha. And this book is Horrid by Katrina Leno. I don't read a lot of YA horror or YA in general, but there are some books I have on my TBR that need to be read and put out into the world so I can forget their existence or just love. But this is not one of them. And one of the other booktubers I watched said very honestly, and I completely agree, which is Newly Nova. They said that books that are 3 stars can either be bad or great, and this is one of those ones that were really bad in my opinion. So I would say that this is one of the books that are going right into the donation pile when I'm done with this review. So, this book follows a girl named Jane and her mother who are moving from LA, California to Maine because they lost all their money. Jane's father has passed away and has had lots of problems with money, and that's what's on the back of the book. Basically, she's just trying to live her new life in a broken down old house that her mother Ruth grew up in, and they move up to a fictional town called Bell's Hollow, where the horror trope of all small towns have a bad history are born. Now, normally I don't have a problem with this trope if done right, but the problem is that this YA, most characters that are in the books are teenagers and they do teenager things, so it's a lot of hearsay and gossip. And it's hard to tell who's actually telling the truth and if everybody's small town dark history is actually correct or, just a bunch of things that teenagers made up. I can usually forgive this kind of thing if the writing is good, but no, the writing isn't terrible in this, but it's very, very simple. Like, I don't usually have a problem with simple books. It makes it easier to read, but there's not enough flower or description on things that I feel like need it, like characters, but in the environment they explain a lot. It doesn't do anything to amp up the creepy factor though. And I do like it when the characters are described, maybe not in depth. Like in this book, they it feels like a lot of it wasn't edited and what was put into the book was lazy. The characters are described in 2 or 3 words that usually consist of their skin color or their hair color. And this made me super cringe at the book, and it's at the beginning, so I should have known that this book wasn't going to be great. When they introduced characters like she was a black girl with box braids, or she was a white girl with shoulder length brown hair and tortoise glasses, and that's it. I don't really know how I feel about be characters being described as quote unquote black or quote unquote white, because it leaves a bad taste in my mouth because it's very black and white, and I'm like, that's you can describe them in other ways than that. And I feel like that is very indicative of the quality of writing in the book. All of that happens in like the first 100 pages of the book. And it's not really a long book, but it sure did feel like a long book when I was reading it. I read it all in one day. It was easy to read, but it felt long. In my opinion, it wasn't scary. A lot of people said it was intense, and I was like, I don't see it. It was atmospheric, apparently. I didn't see it. I didn't feel that. Maybe it's because it was written for a younger target audience than I am. But so is Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. But that still freaks me out. And this didn't do that. I feel like it tried a little bit because it had like a little poem to separate all the chapters. And I guess that's creepy, but it didn't do anything for me. Speaking of lazy writing, there are a few lines that bothered me to read because it was literally copied and pasted from a few pages previous. And it kind of makes me annoyed to see it because it's not a movie, it's not a TV show, it's a book. We can literally just, keep our finger on the page that it was copy and pasted from and like flip back and forth. I don't think that it was doing what it was supposed to be doing or what it thought it was doing, which is emphasis. If you keep doing something for emphasis, the emphasis is lost. If you type everything in caps, nothing looks like it's emphasized anymore. So when you very specifically take this one paragraph of a text message that the main character supposedly sent to her mom and you repaste it 3 times, or if you take a description, and this is the description that bothered me, like a rose, and paste it places several more times, it makes it feel cheap. It doesn't make it feel tense. It just cheapens the effect of what it was to begin with, which was like, it smells like a rose. Oh my God. And then you're like, okay, well, everything smells like a rose. So what does it matter? This house just smells like a rose. Okay. And it just doesn't work. I think the cover is beautiful, but this is one of the ones that I'm like, don't pick it up for just the cover of the book. For me, because I'm a horror fanatic, I picked it up because of the cover, because the girl's eyeballs look like they're growing roses. It didn't do anything. Like, they didn't do any body horror or blood or anything. It didn't work for me. Yeah, don't pick it up because you think there's going to be some body horror on in the cover, or it's literally only on the cover. The cover's creepy. Good job, Tran Nguyen, the person who drew the cover, because it's a very beautiful cover. I think that that person did a great job. It didn't do what it was supposed to, but the book didn't kind of live up to that cover. For me, Jane as a character was extremely unrelatable. She was just an angry teenager who's just obtuse to everybody. I get that she's supposed to have some sort of quirky thing that was going on with her. Honestly, it just felt kind of like she was just an angry teenager. There's literally no reason for her to have pica because she has pica. I mean, I guess it's story related, but it really felt like it didn't do anything to the story. It didn't add much. It added something, I guess, but not a lot. The book is about Jane, but because it's about a teenager, and I feel like her relationship with her mother was a little weird to me, and the way it was written felt very informal. Like, it felt like Ruth and Jane were the same age, because the only thing they did was call Jane's mom and Jane's father Ruth and Greer, which is their first names, which made it feel really informal and impersonal. So it was like, it felt like Jane didn't even see her parents as her parents, because a lot of books usually, in my experience, they would say her mom or her dad, but in this they just called them Ruth and Greer, and I was like, I don't really have I was getting confused, like slightly confused, because at the beginning I thought that Ruth was the main character, which is the mom character, but it's not. It's about Jane. She had a very casual relationship with her parents or her mom because her father had passed away. Or she seemed to have a better relationship with her father, but I don't know. I don't think that it was written in a way that I could tell that she even respected them, let alone liked them. So, I don't know. And they also sprinkled in a lot of like these flashback moments where it felt out of place and like there was no nuance in it. The last thing I'm going to say before the small spoiler section is there's underage drinking in this book. I don't know why. The characters are in high school. So but they're drinking. They do drink in the book. They talk about alcohol a lot. There's I feel like there's a bit of a mishandling with alcoholic beverages in this book that felt a little squicky. And if you can't handle something like that, if you don't want to handle like something like that, if you don't want to share something like that with, if you have this book and you're like, I can give it to my, 14-year-old nephew or whatever, or niece, and you don't want to give them a book with underage drinking in it, yeah, this is one of those books, so don't do it. Okay, so here's the right there. And yeah, when I'm done. So here we go. Here's the spoilers. There are two things that really bothered me and it made me drop my rating of this book way down, which is the bullying thing. They say on the back of the book that she was bullied. And I'm like, no. I understand having beef with one girl might look like bullying, but I couldn't even really say that she was being bullied as somebody who's been bullied before. It felt more like she just had a problem with this one girl named Melanie. And this is supposed to be a small town. And the two friends that Jane makes, because apparently she's friendly enough to make friends, they kind of fence sit on this character named Melanie. They're always like, yeah, she's a bitch. And like on the next page, they're like, but her sister is so sick. And I'm like, she's either a bully or she's not a bully. And it's like, I understand that they're trying to give this character more depth. A lot of the characters in this book have no depth to them. So why are you giving this one depth? It's one thing that I'm like, this girl like kind of shoves you and she kind of bullying your friends, I guess. It wasn't happening to Jane. Like, I didn't see Jane directly being bullied. She usually is observing the bullying. They kind of like, I mean, I guess they imply that Melanie like rips up her books and tears her clothes apart and destroys her whole locker. And I'm like, but they never actually see her doing it. And they never actually confirm if she did or did not do that thing that was like the epitome of being bullied. It was just these three girls going, oh, you're being bullied. And that's it. There's no actual evidence that Melanie actually did it. But there was evidence of Jane losing her shit on this girl. And literally, Mel was like, I'm trying to help you. I'm sorry that I was acting like a bitch to you. Please, I just need to talk to you about your house. And, there's like there's something going on with your family. And Jane, out of nowhere, loses her whole sanity and just beats the living crap out of this girl for no reason. Like, other than, I mean, I guess she said something that's a little triggering, which was the, like, your family's dropping like flies, but it was not, but it was true. So it was kind of weird for Jane to suddenly jump on her bully, beat the crap out of her, and then suddenly everyone's like, well, she deserved it. And I'm like, you guys don't even know what the conversation was prior, because Jane doesn't even, I feel like Jane didn't even know the conversation that happened because she just started freaking out on people. Um, I don't know. I see little bullying from Mel and a lot of bullying from Jane. So I don't know how to feel about that. Once again, they vilified the girl who has dyed black hair, and Mel is described as a white girl with like stringy black hair that's been dyed. And it's like, I don't know why they put this bullying thing on the alternative girl, but I guess that is what it is. I don't know. I also don't know why they just accept the new girl instead of understanding and like kind of being suspect of said new girl and just not being nice to the girl they've known forever. I'm not sure what's going on there. It just felt wrong. The other thing that bothers me is the way that the ghost in this book speaks. I understand that it is a ghost child. It is a child that is a ghost. And but it's one the grandmother character who was taking care of said ghost child was dressing her up like an old Victorian girl, which is like, why? It was maybe set in the 2000s and nobody dresses like that. So why are you dressing her like that? It doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, I don't even know if the grandmother would dress like that. Assuming the grandmother was growing up in the 40s, I mean, wouldn't she dress up in 40s clothes? I don't know. Um, she speaks very bratishly, like a child constantly throwing a temper tantrum, and the fact that Jane just kind of folds and does whatever the ghost wants is very strange to me. And in the end of this book, people say, "Oh, it's open ended. Oh my god." It's not open ended. It's not open ended. It's a very what actually happens at the end of this book is a very very cliche thing that happens in a lot of horror movies, which is the character gives in to the ghost. Basically, she either gets possessed or she's fully convinced by this ghost to do whatever the ghost wants. If you want to see this trope somewhere else done better, honestly, go watch Skeleton Key by Ian Softly, or go watch Hereditary by that was directed by Ari Aster. Both of these things touch on similar themes such as generational trauma and then a ghost getting their way at the end. But those two things they're more effective in their delivery than this book. And that's the end of the spoiler section. Hooray! Once again, I don't know. If you want to consume media that has a similar vibe to this book but is done better, go watch Rose Red. It's a mini series from 2000. It was written by Stephen King. Go watch that instead. And I feel like I'm just always giving you guys something to not read but watch at the end of these things. And I'm going to be honest, it's because I haven't read a lot of books recently enough to start suggesting books. I think that once I start reading a lot of books, I'll suggest more books at the end of these. But for now, you're getting movies. Thank you for joining me for this review of Horrid. I gave this book a 1 star because it's not good. It's not good. I feel like it's a waste of time. There's no horror in it. It doesn't remind me of House Haunting on Hill House. It It doesn't, except for the fact that they're fixing up an old house. That's it. That's all you get. they're, this can't be the only thing for young adult horror, right? I can go find another thing, perhaps. I hope so. Anyways, if you can think of another book that you think I would like, you can put it in the comments below. And if you want to see me live, I stream games on twitch.tv/serial eater on most weeknights. You can come and say hi. And I linked my card in the description below because my card website has more information like what time I'm streaming and my whole schedule. So check there. I really hope that I can find a 5-star book one of these days, but I'm starting to get a little sweaty. Like I'm never going to see that. I have a few books that might get there, but I have lots of things on my TBR. I really need to start unhauling all of these books, and I'm reading them as fast as I can and giving you guys my thoughts and opinions on them. Anyways, I'm rambling. I'm rambling. Goodbye. Goodbye.